lately I've been doing a few little character analysis videos because I think it can save you a lot of time if you have some insight into the character to start with, rather than having to watch 1,000 different versions of films and read the play 30 times and talk to an expert and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snapshot into some of the bigger picture stuff around these characters so you can make choices for yourself that are really dynamic and work for you. So today I'm going to do Juliet. The first thing you need to know about Juliet is that she has maybe the biggest character arc in, well, certainly in the whole play, but potentially in many of Shakespeare's plays. It's this massive, massive journey that she goes on. She is very, very different at the start of the play compared to the end of the play. And what that means is if you are preparing an audition monologue, you need to track where is she in this journey. She starts off as being someone that's quite, I would say, immature, naive, very people-pleasing, just kind of goes along with everything. She's tra-la-la, very little girly, which is fair because she's a little girl. And then as time goes on and all these things happen to her, she really matures. She makes choices for herself. She jumps in. She does things that scare her. She stands up for herself. She fights for love, all of those things. And she changes so much because of that. So you need to look at where your monologue comes in the play, like which act, which scene, and think about where does this fall on her timeline, on her arc and her journey. Is this more towards the really young, immature version of Juliet, or is it the strong woman that's making choices? Or is she in the middle of changing between those and maybe she doesn't quite know where she is? The second thing you need to know about Juliet is it's actually quite practical. Despite getting a little bit carried away and falling in love with this guy super quickly, she's I think less of a romantic than Romeo. Romeo really loves love. He wants to do the poems and shout from the balcony and stuff. She is just really fallen for this guy. And this may be just my take on it. I think she's fallen for this guy quickly and in an immature way, but she's not, the wool doesn't go over her eyes so quickly. You really see that play out in the balcony scene. So if you have a look at the monologues from that scene, or if you're doing that scene in full, you really see how she kind of shuts Romeo down. She's actually quite practical about it. She's like, I don't want to hear you do your thing and do the poetry and stuff. I don't want you to try and win me over. Just tell me for real, do you like me? And that's, I think, very powerful to have that grounded aspect of her, and it gives us a little bit of insight into the woman that she becomes over the course of the play. The third thing is that Juliet is very contemporary. What I mean by that is that it's very common, as you may have noticed, to have contemporary adaptations of Romeo and Juliet. Not all of Shakespeare's plays adapt well to a contemporary setting, but Romeo and Juliet definitely does. They feel like they could be alive today, and that's really wonderful and one of the reasons that we love it so much. But it comes with a little bit of a challenge. You need to be careful as an actor that you're not making her language too contemporary. Just because she feels like she could be alive today doesn't mean she can speak like a teenager would today. So you need to be thinking about your vocal patterns when it comes to Juliet. Teenagers today tend to have a lot of repetition in what they say. They tend to have big pauses. They tend to up-inflect a lot when they're talking. You can't really do that much with Shakespeare. You can add elements of it to make it sound contemporary, especially with like young Juliet at the beginning of the play. But you need to be careful about it because Shakespeare's language is designed to flow. It's not designed to have big gaps in the middle of lines. It's not designed to have a lot of repetition. You can't be adding words. You need to be accurate. So don't be so contemporary about your interpretation of her as a character that your language or your vocal patterns begin to be problematic. So for something like, "Dost thou love me?" That's a little bit that she says. You can play on the contemporary teen thing in that she is quite cautious. It feels very real. "Dost thou love me?" Like, you can play with that kind of thing, but you can't be going, does thou love me? You can't do that kind of jumpy repetition-y thing, or you can't be like, "Dost thou Love Me, that kind of breaking it up like that. It needs to still flow. It still needs to fit within the language. You can't play with it too much, okay? So just be careful about how much contemporary teen you put in there. I highly recommend don't bring any contemporary things into the audition room. Don't do a spin on it that has a mobile phone, for example. It's just really not necessary for Romeo and Juliet. They really feel contemporary as it is, and it can be really distracting. And if you've got someone on your audition panel, a director or teacher or whatever, that really doesn't like that kind of contemporary adaptation, you could be doing yourself a big disservice. And that's it. It's really fun playing Juliet. So there's so much you can take from her, and you can really embed your own kind of spin on it. But you really need to do the research, really understand her character journey. And that requires a little bit of time spent with her. The more that you read, watch, rehearse, the more that you're going to really start to understand who Juliet is. I've also done a number of videos of Juliet's monologue, so if you're looking for a specific monologue, I will link them there, somewhere, maybe there. Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions or if there are any other characters you'd like me to look into, and I'll see you guys next time.